Hi friends, welcome back to Top Lesson for You. As we know that we have started lectures on the anatomy of human circulatory system. So in this series we have recorded many lectures regarding circulatory system. Now in this lecture I am going to record about the structure of blood vessels, right? Structure of the walls of blood vessels, that what is the composition of these walls of those blood vessels. Then we will go in the detail of types of blood vessels and types of arteries, types of capillaries and veins, etc. So first of all we should know about the structure of blood vessels. So let's focus on our lecture. We are discussing about the structure of blood vessels, right? Structure of blood vessels. So to make this lecture easy and to make this lecture understandable, to make the structure of these walls of these blood vessels understandable and to cover it very easily, I have drawn something, I have made some sketches. So we will put all these sketches on this whiteboard and we will understand each of the layer of the blood vessels. So first of all, let me tell you that the blood vessels, right, especially those large blood vessels, are made up of three layers, right? The walls are made up of three layers. So let me write them, three layers. I'm talking about large blood vessels, and those are, I'm talking about arteries and veins, right? As we know that our capillaries don't have three layers, okay? So I'm talking about arteries and veins. So the walls of these arteries and veins are made up of three layers, or we also can say that these layers are also known as tunics, because this tunic means coat, right? So we can say that the walls of arteries or veins are made up of three coats or tunics, or we can also say that three layers, right? So let me draw a very simple sketch here, that there is, okay, that there is an inner layer, and this inner layer is the endothelial layer, right? There is an inner layer. Then above this endothelial layer there is another layer, the second tunic, right? It's a very simplified diagram to, okay, this is the second tunic or coat, and then there is the third tunic or coat, right? So generally speaking, blood vessels like arteries and veins have walls which are made up of three layers, and these layers are named as the inner layer, the middle layer and the outer layer. This black one is the inner layer. I will talk about this inner coat in detail later. This is inner coat, and this one is the middle coat. The red one is the middle coat, and this one is the external coat or outer coat. External coat or outer coat. Clear? So this is very simple to understand it. Now we will go in detail of each coat. We will go in detail of inner coat. We will go in detail of middle and external coat also, right? So generally speaking, the arteries and veins, right, the walls of these arteries and veins are made up of three sublayers, and these are inner, middle and external, right? And this is the lumen where the blood and other substances flows. Okay friends, now let's move towards the inner coat and see what is present in the inner coat and what is the composition of this inner coat and what are the sublayers of this inner coat, right? So let me discuss here the inner coat. Clear? Okay. This inner coat is also known as tunica interna. Tunica interna. Clear? This one. This inner coat is also known as tunica interna or inner layer. Clear? Or inner layer. About this layer, I would say that this is the layer which is in direct contact with the blood. For example, here is the blood flow. Blood is flowing. So this inner layer is in direct contact with the blood which is present in the lumen, right? This is not enough about inner layer. Let us go further and see. This inner layer is made up of 3 sublayers. This is made up of 3 or more speaking, this inner layer is made up of 4 layers. 4 further layers, right? And what are those? Let me make the inner layer here. I'm talking about inner coat. Let me make it here and show all those 4 layers in the diagram, and then we will go in the detail of composition of those layers, right? So the first thing that we have here is the inner endothelial layer, right? Inner layer, and this first layer is made up of endothelial cells, right? This is endothelial layer, right? I have told you that this inner coat, this coat is made up of 4 sublayers, right? This is endothelium. Beneath the endothelium we have the basement membrane, right? This is the basement membrane, okay? And outer to this basement membrane is the subendothelial layer. Subendothelial layer, and outer to this subendothelial layer there is elastic lamina. There is elastic lamina, or we can say internal elastic lamina. Clear? So what we have learned up to now, that this inner coat is made up of 4 sublayers. And what are those 4 sublayers? The first one, the innermost, is the endothelial layer. Then above the endothelium there is, yes, basement membrane. Clear? Above the basement membrane there is this bluish layer, and this is called the, yes, subendothelial layer, right? And above this subendothelial layer there is, yes, this one is inner lamina, right? This one is the inner lamina. Okay, so what we have learned up to now, this inner coat of this blood vessel, either it is artery or vein. This inner coat, the first coat, the innermost coat, which is also known as tunica interna or inner layer, it is made up of 4 sublayers, and those layers are endothelium. I will talk about endothelium here, and then there is the basement membrane, and then there is subendothelium, and then there is the outermost of all these 4 layers, that is inner, I would say, elastic lamina. Inner elastic lamina. Clear? Okay, let's write about this inner endothelium or endothelial layer. Clear? Okay, so this endothelial layer, we can say that it is the innermost layer, right? Isn't it? It is the innermost layer, and this layer is made up of what? This layer is made up of endothelial cells, endothelial cells, right? And the shape of these cells may have shapes which may be round, which may be oval, or they also have fusiform shape, right? They may be round, they may be oval, or they may be fusiform in shape, these cells, these endothelial cells, right? And these are the cells, the four important points, these are the cells which are in direct contact with blood, in direct contact with blood. Clear? And these are the cells which are responsible for absorption of nutrients, right? These cells, this endothelial layer is responsible to absorb substances, and they are also responsible to secrete different substances to the lumen, right? There can be two-way transport from the lumen into the endothelial cells and from endothelial cells into the lumen. So we can also write here that these cells are doing absorptive function and sometimes secretory function also. Secretory function, right? They are responsible for secretion of different substances into the lumen of this blood vessel, right? So this would be enough, I think, about the endothelial layer, that this is the inner layer, innermost layer of these four layers, right? And this is made up of endothelial cells, and these cells are in direct contact with the blood which is present in the lumen. So these cells may have different shapes, they may have round shape, they may have oval shape, they may have fusiform shape, right? And they are in direct contact with the blood. Sometimes, not only sometimes, they are also responsible for absorption of substances from the lumen, and they are also responsible for secreting different substances into the lumen of this blood vessel, right? Okay, next to endothelium we have basement membrane. So let us discuss about basement membrane also, the second one. Basement membrane. Okay, so this basement membrane, we can say that above the endothelium there is a protective connective tissue layer. There is a connective tissue layer, and this connective tissue layer is called the basement membrane. So it is a connective tissue layer, connective tissue layer, okay. And what is its function? Its function is to give protection to these endothelial cells, the first thing. And the next thing is that the function of this basement membrane is to provide nutrition to these endothelial cells. So their function is protection and provide nutrition to endothelium. Clear? Okay, so we have discussed about endothelial layer, then above the endothelial layer there is basement membrane, and then we have subendothelial layer, the third one. Subendothelial layer. Okay, so this subendothelial layer, where is it? It is present above the, or we can say that it is present outer to, what? Outer to basement membrane, right? It is present outer to basement membrane. The first one is endothelium, then there is basement membrane, then there is subendothelial layer, and its composition is that it is made up of connective tissue. I will show you in the diagram. It is made up of connective tissue, Then it also have some elastic fibers and collagen fibers. Elastic fibers and collagen fibers. So I think it is a protective layer. Okay, it is made up of elastic fibers, collagen fibers and other connective tissue substances. So it is the subendothelial layer, and the last one is inner elastic lamina. Inner elastic lamina. The fourth one. The fourth of this inner coat, the fourth sublayer of this inner coat is inner elastic lamina. Right? So where is it? It is present outer to subendothelial layer. Okay, it is present outer to subendothelial layer. What is it made up of? What is its composition? Again, it has some elastic fibers. It has elastic fibers. It's made up of some elastic fibers. It is made up of some other connective tissues. And the most important about this layer is that it has some small openings. Small openings, I will show you in the diagram, inshallah, that this inner elastic lamina has small openings, and these openings are used for exchange of different substances between the lumen and outer layers, right? So it is used for exchange of substances. We would say simply that these small openings which are present in the inner elastic lamina, these are used for diffusion of different substances, right? I will show in the diagram, inshallah. Now let me show you this inner layer, what we have brought in front of you. So let me erase this diagram and let me show this, all these three layers, right? Okay, friends. Now you can see that here, this opening is the lumen of the blood vessel, right? And this layer that you can see is made up of endothelial cells. Okay, so this is the first layer. Let us put it here. This is our first layer.